How long have you been doing this, and what was the motivation for you to start doing this?
I've been doing this since 2019. Um, and what happened is, it's in my book. What happened is, when I found out my daughter, well, I had been looking for my daughter for a long time because her mother had ran off and joined this cult. And
Mm-hmm.
I heard some of the snippets that people were sending me and everything where 2K and Kia and everything were saying that, she left me and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't that. She got caught up in this online cult group and started believing all this stuff, changing her name to Hebrew names and all that stuff, and it's a brainwashing type of technique. And she had went to go visit her grandmother up in Missouri, ended up meeting up with these people, and then ended up joining their cult. And if anybody knows anything about the Missouri Six, I'm helping the police department up there and the FBI locate the Missouri Six too, because they were part of that group also, and they are missing. They all went on the run the moment that I found out my daughter, where my daughter was. And it took me a couple of years, but I ended up locating them. I started tracking down her phone number. She would switch out phone numbers and all that stuff. They make them get rid of their credit cards and, whatever they have, banking accounts and everything. And I started using my skills when
Mm-hmm.
I used to do fugitive enforcement. I started using my skills and everything to track them down because in the beginning, the police wasn't trying to help me. And it made me frustrated. So that's when I started, getting into this. I started tracking them down, went across 5 state lines. And in the process of tracking down where my daughter was, because I started getting messages, and that's in my book also, copies of those messages where she said that my daughter was dead, said that she killed all the kids. She got up there and told my kids that I was dead, and had people believing that. And it was really wild, and it sent me into overdrive. And then finally got a judge that, I showed him what the Hebrew Israelites and all that stuff and what this cult believes in. He ended up, he hurried up and held a special session, gave me my paperwork, told all law enforcement. He made it nationwide, gave an order nationwide and everything to for law enforcement to assist me to find my daughter. So I found her, found out where she was, reached out to a couple of school districts and everything to find out if she was registered in school. I got a hit up in Washington, D.C. They told me my daughter was there, enrolled and everything. She was also in the DCS system. So I drove up there. It's like a it's like almost a 10-hour drive for me. I made it there in
Mm-hmm.
5 hours. Got up there on a Sunday after I performed the wedding and everything, and for a couple, and then got up on a Sunday. Didn't even go to sleep. Next month, when that Monday morning hit, I was at the school that morning and waiting, and had to wait on law enforcement. I was working with the district police. They helped me out and everything, and it took me about maybe 4 or 5 hours before I could actually get her, because they had never heard of anything like this before. They were like, "How did you do all this?" Things like that. And I asked them specifically. I said, "Have you ever seen that movie Taken?" I said, "I did everything in there outside of taking some lives." I said, because I was determined to find my daughter. Um, and then when I finally got to go see her, when she was inside the school, they brought her to the front. She thought she saw a ghost, including the principal, a couple of teachers, the caseworker, and all them, because they were told that I was dead. And when my little girl saw me, she screamed, ran to a corner and everything. And she said, "That's a ghost because my daddy's dead," and all this stuff, And it was really hurtful for her to say that. But, finally got my baby, and, from there, I journaled my story all over social media, about finding my baby, and, all the way
Mm-hmm.
to the, showing the whole process, even picking her up and everything, even to the part to where her mother and Rashad Jamal and a couple of other people had came down in a vehicle and tried to take my daughter back. And, there was a whole fiasco also, but they ended up locking her mom up into the a facility because, she lost her mind. She got in there and started screaming and rolling on the floor and all that stuff. They shut down the entire courthouse. It was wild, but read the book. It'll tell you about all that. But that's what got me started in it. And then there were people that were reaching out to me. They said, "I see you found your daughter. Can you help us with our case?" And I'm like, "What's going on?" And I did a case of a little kid. He was only like maybe 4 months old, 3 or 4 months old. A couple reached out to me. Their kid had been kidnapped and they knew who did it. So I started doing a story on that, and I started, putting a lot of heat and pressure, reaching out to some people and everything. That's when I got in touch with this PI that I work with now. She's on staff, her and her company. I got attorneys, I got ex-law enforcement and current law enforcement that, we all work together. That's how I do a lot of these cases. So, got into that right there. We found the baby, got videos of that where, we found the baby and everything, walked up, the police ended up bringing the child to the mother, and that right there just made history. Then it just started going from there, from other cases, to date. We have over 175 solved cases of people who have been murdered. We have arrests up under our belts and everything. Just like currently today, we have 4 arrests that happened with the little kid down in Alabama, Silicotta, Alabama. We found out who that was, because people are going to trust us before they trust law enforcement, as far as turning over information.
Yeah,
so they turn the
absolutely.
information over, and when people hit me up, my inbox stays full. I get thousands of emails daily, tips, all kinds of stuff, and I turn it over to law enforcement, all that stuff, and we start gathering evidence. We turn it over to law enforcement, and then when I get permission, I start speaking about it. That's why you'll see me put people's faces up there, because we have permission to speak about it, because they're already on their tail. You know what I'm saying? They've already got the evidence to arrest them and all that. So somebody sent me that case of Kia's brother, and I started looking into it, and I said, wait a minute. So I reached out to my contacts. They reached out to their contacts and everything. And we started getting a little bit more inside information on some things. And there's some things that I know, you know what I'm saying? That's why I said, it's somebody close or in the family.
So another thing I wanted to, somebody put out there, 2K actually put out there, and it's having people speculate. This has nothing to do, your case with your daughter and the cult that your daughter was involved in, was forced into. It had nothing to do with Nature Boy, right? Or was it Nature Boy?
No, it had nothing to do with Nature Boy, but we did assist in help getting him arrested. We assisted in that one. We assisted in the one with Brother Polite. And a lot of that stuff stemmed from us digging into Rashad Jamal and looking at the older stuff, that Royal Jenkins and, a lot of people haven't heard of those names, but Royal Jenkins and Malachi Z. We looked at, their history and everything, and then see how Polite and Nature Boy and Rashad Jamal, and there's many others out here who follow those teachings, and all you got to do is look at the pattern. So here recently, looking at what was going on with Rashad Jamal and Nature Boy and all them, through all of my tracking and tracing down and all that stuff, we found a lot of hubs, underground hubs. So here recently, they just found, I think it was like 20 plus kids who were under the age of 14 who were being trafficked. And nobody knew about it. I mean, this building is right there in the middle of a community right there in Kansas City, Missouri. And nobody knew about it. They thought it was just a regular grocery store. But when the U.S. Marshals finally raided that place, they went into the basement and they found an entire hub of kids down there. And these kids have been missing. These kids, like I said, are under the age of 14. And they ended up rescuing these kids. So it went from Kansas City, Missouri to Georgia, to Texas, to Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri. So, and that right there was from me just trying to find my daughter. That's how I found out about all these hubs, because I was doing some deep investigating to find my baby, and I was going to do it by any means necessary. And, another thing, what really, and the reason I went off, and, and I want to give a big shout out to one of my PIs. She's in the live. I'm not going to say her name, but she's in the live. She works on the federal side. Okay. But and she know who she is. But looking at all this stuff right here, what we were doing, and what, like I said, what really pissed me off was my baby, from the age of 3 to 7 years old. These kids, Rashad Jamal, Nature Boy, and all them, everybody know what Nature Boy did, you know what I'm saying, and what he was doing. These other people were doing the same thing. They were making these young girls, they would break the virginity of these young girls so they could be the first, okay? And I'm finding all this stuff out because my baby is now talking. She has to go to the FBI. She got to talk to them through their analysts and all this stuff, and the more she opens up, the more I find out. There's still stuff that she has in her, she's been traumatized, but, they were made from the simple things of, when the men come in, they would have to take their shoes off, take off their socks, rub the men's feet, You know what I'm saying? Give them a massage and everything. And these are children. These are babies.
Children.
And yeah, you know, and then they would have to walk around the house in nightgowns or teddies. You know what I'm saying? And then all the way up to what my baby had told me, a lot of things she had witnessed, you know what I'm saying, and things that have happened to her. So that's why I got pissed off. And that's what made me, when they started talking about my baby, even mentioning her name, you know what I'm saying, it made me go
Oh, I
into
can imagine.
it made me take off my preacher hat and put on my Marine and my daddy hat. And then also my investigator hat. So I started digging, and when I start digging, I don't stop. You know what I'm saying? I don't stop at all, and you know, until
That's
I get results. You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
So like I told them before, you know, leave me alone, because I'm not messing with you. I just covered a story. I don't care if you don't like those people. You know what I'm saying? Y'all hatred for anybody else, that's on you. Because many times your hatred, that jealousy, that envy, you know what I'm saying, it's in the Bible. That right there will cause you to have these roots to where you're going to end up destroying yourself before you destroy anybody else.
Trying to tear down like the integrity of your character and take away from who you are and what you stand for when they're not willing to do and make the sacrifices. Because I can't believe, I know for a fact that what you do comes with great sacrifice. I know you sacrifice. You have to, because what you're doing is something that everybody ain't getting up every day and making a journey for themselves. So to bring up your past and try to use it against you and flip it and turn it, would you like to talk about anything that was alleged yesterday by 2K about your past?
Oh yeah, I'd love to talk about
What?
that, because they can read it in my book, you know, and that's why I made that little post and said, you know what, thank you for promoting my book, because it's in my book. It's basically your testimony. You know, in the Bible, it talks about in Revelation 12:11, we are overcomers by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. You help not only yourself, but you also help other people get over their struggles, get over things that they've been through by telling your testimony. And at the time when that right there happened, I was accused of some things. Police department got up there and found out it wasn't true, but it was some people that were trying to basically, like what 2K and Kia are doing, trying to bring me down because they were mad because they didn't like me. You know what I'm saying? And my house caught fire because I bought a house from a church. I did some work on the church. They didn't have the money to pay for it. They had a parsonage, and the parsonage and everything was getting ready to get torn down by the city. So they said, you know what? Instead of us putting all this money into it, we're going to give you this house. They signed it over, deed and everything. And then when I fixed it up, because that's what I do for a living, you know, I build houses. I fixed this house up and bought it from nothing all the way up to like a $300,000 home. You know what I'm saying? And I did it with my hands only. And when they saw that, they tried to come in and try to take it back. When they saw that it was going to be a fight, they ended up setting my house on fire. I got accused of it. You know what I'm saying? I got accused of it and everything, and I fought long and hard because there was a lot of corruption too, because one of the officers that was involved in that, he was coercing witnesses. He was trying to make them leave town. He was making deals with witnesses and stuff. He was going in and had SWAT teams and everything busting into people's houses and everything, man, arresting them and stuff, and eventually letting them go and everything. You know, the police department didn't know what this guy was doing. He had forged judges' signatures. I mean, it's deep. You know what I'm saying? But what happened is, because that's another reason why I stay on top of these police officers and these judges, because he came in, and when he did all of that stuff, they allowed him to retire and move to a whole different state. He moved to Florida. You know what I'm saying? And he's down there. He's down there, and I guarantee you, he's doing the same exact stuff down there. You know what I'm saying? But I had to file a lawsuit. I had to, you know, do everything. That's why, you know, my appeals and everything, they showing that right there, but they didn't show the appeals. They didn't show when it went to the district, the U.S. District Court, and all that stuff when everything came out. They didn't show all of that. The thing about it is, stuff like that doesn't bother me when you're trying to bring me down or show my past, because I've already spoke my testimony and many people already know about it, and it's in my book. It's public knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't bother me. It used to bother me back then when I was going through, because it sent me through a depression. That same stuff right there is what killed my father. You know, he had a massive heart attack because of all the stuff that was going on, because it affected him. It affected our entire family, you know what I'm saying, and split us apart, all because of a lie, all because of people up here lying and
Lies will
greed
do
and
it.
jealousy. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Yeah.
Yep. That'll do it.